All right, so get this. Today we are going deep, deep into transurfing and like how it just totally flips the script on what we think is real. We're going to zero in on chapter 8, slides. This one is, well, wild.
Yeah, it really shakes up how we usually think about what's real and what's not. Transurfing kind of suggests that those things we call illusions, they might not just be, in our heads. They could be like glimpses into other parts of something called the information field.
Okay, so not just wild, we're talking like alternate dimensions here.
Yeah, and it gets even trippier. So this information field, it's where everything that exists, everything that could exist is stored. Like every possibility all in one place.
Whoa, so you mean like anything we can dream up is actually out there in this information field?
That's what it's suggesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And that means, we could be tapping into these other realities way more than we realize through dreams, daydreams, even just how we see the world every day.
Hold on. If we're always dipping in and out of these other realities, why don't we notice? Why does everything feel so, I don't know, normal?
And that's where those slides come in. Transurfing says each of us, we have our own set of slides, and they're kind of like filters. They change how we see everything.
So it's like we're all wearing our own, like, custom reality goggles.
Exactly. These slides, they're made up of all our beliefs, what we assume, our past experiences, and they shape how we understand, well, everything. Imagine a projector, right? The light, that's reality. It shines through the slide. That's our perception. And that makes the image we see on the screen our experience.
I'm starting to get it now.
Yeah.
So someone with, let's say, lots of negative beliefs, they're basically projecting a negative slide onto the world, and that, in turn, affects how they experience things.
Right on. The book really dives into, anxieties about appearance as an example. If you're always worried about being unattractive, well, that worry can actually make you act in ways that make others see you that way, too.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy then, right?
Yeah.
You think you're unattractive, you act like it, and that confirms your belief. Vicious cycle.
Exactly. But here's the cool part. It works both ways. If you focus on what's good about you, your strengths, the way you want to see yourself, you project a more positive slide.
So like walking into a job interview thinking, I'm going to crush this. I'm the one they need. People will feel that confidence, right?
It's not about faking it, though. It's got to be genuine, recognizing your strengths, letting that confidence shine through. Transurfing calls it shifting to a positive slide.
All right, so how do we actually do that? Create a positive slide, I mean. Is it just like thinking happy thoughts?
It's a little more than that. It's about first noticing your negative slides, those beliefs that are holding you back, and then on purpose, choosing to focus on a better, more empowering perspective.
So not ignoring our flaws, not pretending they're not there.
No, it's more like acknowledging them, but not letting them, run the show. It's about focusing on the qualities you want to grow, the person you want to become.
This is starting to sound kind of like manifesting.
There are definitely overlaps, but transurfing is more, practical. It says visualizing is important, but it only works when you combine it with action.
So no, just sitting around daydreaming about the perfect life. We got to do something to make it happen.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of outer intention comes in.
Outer intention. Now, that sounds interesting. What's that all about?
A bit tricky to explain, but basically there's this force in the universe, right? And it can help make our desires reality, but we got to activate it with our actions, our intentions.
So it's not like wishing on a star. We got to meet the universe halfway.
Precisely. It's like a dance, our inner world and the outer world, and our actions. Those are the steps that make the dance happen. And this leads to another fascinating concept, widening your comfort zone.
Expanding my horizons. Tell me more.
Okay, so transurfing suggests that our comfort zone, the things we feel we can actually achieve, it's largely shaped by, what we believe. The book uses this really powerful example, contrasting a homeless person who can't even imagine, say, sitting at a luxurious Christmas dinner table.
Okay, I can already see where this is going.
With these, newly rich Russian billionaires, the ones who popped up after the Soviet Union collapse.
So what was different? How did those billionaires go from 0 to 100 like that?
The key difference, according to transurfing, was their belief. Their absolute certainty they deserved that wealth. They just claimed it.
So it's not about luck, not just circumstance. It's about believing you're worthy of the life you want.
That's at the heart of transurfing, shifting your internal reality, your slide, so it matches what you desire. It's about giving yourself permission to be worthy. And that's where visualization really kicks in.
Okay, finally getting to the good stuff. What's different about the transurfing way of visualizing?
It's all about visualizing the process, not just the goal. People get stuck on just picturing the end result, like they're already there. Transurfing says that's not enough.
So, no, just picturing myself living in my dream house. I got to visualize getting there.
Exactly. Imagine saving for the down payment, looking at neighborhoods, going to open houses, all of it. Feel that satisfaction of getting closer, you know? Experience the journey. Don't just fantasize about the destination.
So it's more about the actions we're taking, not just the end goal. Sounds like that takes serious mental discipline.
It does, but the payoff is huge. And Transurfing gives us this tool to help visualize the process. Transfer chains.
Transfer chains. Lay it on me. What are we talking about here?
I picture a huge, massive goal. It's overwhelming to try and see the whole path from start to finish, right? So Transurfing says, break it down. Smaller, manageable steps. Those are the links in the chain.
So instead of trying to jump a giant chasm, we build a bridge, one link at a time.
Exactly. And then you focus on visualizing the process within that current link, trusting that the whole thing will unfold link by link.
Okay, I can see how that would make a big goal way less scary.
It does, and it loops back to choosing your slide. Each link in the chain, it needs a specific mindset, specific beliefs and actions to move you to the next link and eventually to that goal.
So each link, it has its own slide that we got to get in tune with.
That's it. And to navigate these chains, it takes real awareness. There are even pitfalls to watch out for, like getting too caught up in interpreting signs.
Oh, you mean like looking for proof from the universe that we're on the right path?
Right. It's tempting to think every little thing is a sign, but Transurfing says don't get too hung up on that.
Why not? Seems like it'd be reassuring.
Because those signs, they usually relate to just that one link, not the whole goal. Might mean you're moving in the right direction for now, but not necessarily for the big picture.
So it's better to focus on what we're actually doing, trust the process, rather than trying to decipher every little sign, right?
That's the idea. Action is what keeps things moving. Now, you might be wondering, if we're focusing on the process, what happens to that traditional visualizing the goal thing?
Yeah, great question. Does Transurfing say we shouldn't visualize the end goal at all?
Not at all. It still matters. Visualizing the goal, creating that slide in your mind, that's what stretches your comfort zone, aligns your energy with where you want to be.
So it's like creating the mental space for the goal to, I don't know, actually show up.
Exactly, like planting a seed in good soil. But the actual growth, the movement toward that goal, that comes from visualizing the process. That's what gets outer intention working, that force that brings the right events and circumstances.
This is all starting to make sense now, but honestly, it's kind of counterintuitive. We're so used to thinking we got to obsess over the goal, push and strive for it.
And Transurfing is like, whoa, hold up, there's a different way. It's about letting go of that struggle, that need to force things. It's about aligning yourself with how the universe naturally flows.
So surrendering to the process rather than trying to control it.
You got it. And that surrender, it doesn't mean being passive. It's taking inspired action, trusting your gut, letting the journey unfold.
This is seriously making me rethink how I set goals. It's a whole new way of looking at things.
It can be a huge shift, for sure. And it all starts with understanding how powerful our perceptions are, those slides that shape our reality.
Okay, so in this first part of our Transurfing deep dive, we talked about how illusions might be more than just fantasies, how our beliefs work like slides distorting our view, and how important it is to choose positive slides and understand outer intention.
Right. And we also got into visualizing the process, not just the goal, and how those transfer chains can break down big goals into smaller steps. Plus, we touched on not getting too fixated on interpreting every little sign.
That's a lot to take in. But it's exciting too, really empowering. Before we move on to actually putting all this into practice, let's give our listeners a minute to think.
Yeah.
Is there a goal you've been struggling with? Could it be because you haven't fully embraced the right slide for that journey?
Great question. Maybe you're pushing for something that's not quite aligned with where you are right now.
Or maybe you're so focused on the end goal, you're not paying enough attention to the process, the steps you need to take.
Exactly. Remember, it's about choosing the slide that gives you power, visualizing the process, and trusting the journey. So we've been digging into the theory behind all this slide stuff. Now let's talk about actually using it, in real life.
Yeah, I'm ready to put this Transurfing wisdom to work. Where do we start?
First things first, awareness. We got to become super aware of our thoughts, our beliefs, especially the ones that feel, kind of limiting.
So instead of letting those negative thoughts just run wild, we got to notice them, actually question them.
Exactly. Don't be hard on yourself for having them. They're often like super ingrained, but just see them without getting, totally swept away.
That's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes those thoughts are like a runaway train.
Oh, for sure. It takes practice. One thing that helps is to imagine you're just an observer, watching those thoughts go by like clouds in the sky.
I like that. It's like creating space between you and the thought so they don't feel so, I don't know, personal.
Exactly. And once you have that space, you can choose to focus on a different thought, something more empowering. That's where choosing your slide comes in.
So, like, if I catch myself thinking, I'm not creative enough to start my own business,
Yeah.
I could shift to, I have unique talents. The world needs what I've got.
Right on. Replacing the negative slide with a positive one. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. You're basically rewiring your brain to see things in a new, more positive light.
Like mental weightlifting. We're getting those positive slide muscles stronger.
Love that. And just like with exercise, consistency is key. The more you focus on those positive beliefs, the more they stick, and the easier it is to see yourself and the world through that positive lens.
Okay, that all makes sense. But what about when life just throws you a curveball? You lose your job, a relationship ends, something like that. How do you keep a positive slide going when everything feels like it's falling apart?
Those are the moments that really test us, for sure. But remember, transurfing isn't about pretending bad stuff doesn't happen. It's about acknowledging it, but choosing to focus on the parts we can control.
So instead of dwelling on the loss, like letting it take over, I might ask myself, what new doors might this open? What can I learn from this?
Exactly. You're reframing the situation, seeing the potential for growth, for change.
This is really challenging how I think about dealing with setbacks. It's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about choosing how we respond to them.
You got it. And sometimes the most powerful slide in those tough moments is simply acceptance. Accepting that we don't have all the answers, accepting that life has ups and downs, trusting that we can handle it.
That really resonates with me. Sometimes the bravest thing is to just be present and trust that things will work out.
Surrender is a big concept in transurfing, but it's not about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to control everything, letting the universe do its thing.
So more like going with the flow instead of fighting against it.
Precisely. And that brings us back to outer intention and how it works with our actions. It's not about wishing, it's about taking action while trusting that the universe will have our back.
All right, I'm ready to put this into practice, but I'm still kind of fuzzy on the visualization part. I get the process visualization thing, but how do I actually do it?
A great way is to make it part of your routine. Say you have a big presentation. Instead of just picturing yourself doing great, imagine every step. Making the slides, rehearsing, walking confidently onto the stage, connecting with the audience.
So I'm creating a mental movie of the whole experience.
Yep. Use all your senses. What do you see, hear, feel? The more real it feels, the more powerful it is for your subconscious.
This is making a lot of sense. By focusing on the process, we're not just calming our nerves, we're mentally rehearsing for success, building our confidence.
Exactly. And you can use this for any goal, writing a book, running a marathon, even a difficult conversation.
So before that tough conversation, I might picture myself staying calm, really listening, saying what I need to say, and finding a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly. You're creating a slide for that interaction, a mental guide for your actions that can influence how it all goes down.
This is powerful stuff. It's like we have this hidden power, the ability to shape our reality with our minds.
That's what's so amazing about transurfing. It gives us the power to take charge of our experience, to become active creators in our lives.
And I love that it's not just about big dreams. It's about using these principles every day, making small but important changes in how we see things and how we act.
Right on. It's about choosing the slide that gives us power in every moment, big challenges, or just everyday life.
This is all so helpful. But there's got to be some bumps along the way, right? What are some of the pitfalls people run into when they're trying to use these transurfing principles?
That's a great question and a perfect lead-in to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll talk about some of the challenges and roadblocks on the path to mastering slides.
Okay, I'm already hooked. But before we go there, let's give our listeners a moment to think. Is there something in your life you've been trying to change but haven't been able to? Could it be that you're holding on to a negative slide that's blocking your progress?
And remember, even a tiny shift in perception, a little tweak to your slide, can have a huge ripple effect on your whole reality.
All right, so we've really gone deep on slides, from the big ideas to the practical stuff. But let's be real, it's not always easy to put this into practice, right?
Yeah.
What about the challenges, the things that can trip us up along the way?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Becoming a master of choosing those positive slides and keeping them going, it's a journey, and there are definitely going to be some bumps along the way.
Let's talk about those books. What are some of the most common things that trip people up when they're trying to use these transurfing ideas?
I'd say one of the biggest ones is, just plain old self-doubt. It's easy to understand the idea of slides, visualization, all that, but when we try to use it in our own lives, those negative beliefs, they can sneak back in.
Ugh, tell me about it. It's like those negative slides have some kind of backstage pass in my brain. They just show up, especially when I'm trying something new, pushing myself out of my comfort zone.
That's totally normal. Think about it. Those negative beliefs, they come from years of conditioning, right? From childhood, from society, even our own past experiences. It takes time to change those patterns, those deep-seated beliefs.
So patience is key.
Absolutely. And being kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you find those negative thoughts popping up again. Just notice them and gently guide your focus back to that positive slide you want.
It's like, I don't know, training a puppy. There are going to be accidents, but with the right guidance and lots of positive reinforcement, we can teach our minds to choose those empowering thoughts more and more.
I love that analogy. And just like with that puppy, celebrate those small wins. Every time you catch yourself choosing a positive slide, even if it's just for a second, acknowledge it.
So don't focus on the times I mess up. Focus on when I successfully shift my perspective, right?
Exactly. It's about building momentum, one positive thought at a time. And remember, progress isn't always a straight line. Some days it'll be easy, some days it'll feel hard. The important thing is to keep at it, keep practicing, trust the process.
Got it. So self-doubt, check. What other pitfalls should we be looking out for?
Another one is getting too fixated on the outcome, the end goal, instead of the journey, the process of getting there. We talked about visualizing the steps, but sometimes that desire for the goal, it can be so strong that we forget to enjoy the ride.
It's like being so focused on reaching the destination that you don't even notice the scenery along the way.
Exactly. And that can lead to impatience, frustration, feeling stuck. Remember, transurfing is all about going with the flow, aligning with the natural way of things. Trying to force it usually just creates resistance and blocks what you're trying to create.
So how do you balance taking action with, surrendering to the process? It seems kind of contradictory.
It is a bit of a balancing act, that's for sure. The key is to stay present, focused on that current step, that link in your chain, and trust that everything you're doing is moving you towards what you want.
So instead of stressing about whether or not I'll get that promotion, I should focus on doing my best in my current role, learning new skills, building good relationships with my coworkers.
Exactly. Those are all part of the process that will lead you to where you want to be. And even if you don't get that specific promotion, by focusing on those steps, you're creating a positive slide that will attract other opportunities that are a better fit for you.
That's a great reminder that sometimes the path to our goals doesn't look like what we expect. But by staying focused on the process, on our actions and intentions, we can create something even better than we imagined.
That's the beauty of transurfing. It's about letting go of rigid expectations and being open to the possibilities that come when we align ourselves with the flow of life.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. Any final thoughts before we wrap up our deep dive on slides?
Just remember, everyone's journey is unique. There's no right or wrong way to use these principles. Play with them, experiment, find what works for you. And most importantly, have fun. Transurfing is all about creating a life that's full of joy, meaning, and aligned with what you truly desire.
Beautifully said. And to all our listeners out there, remember, you are the architects of your reality. Choose your slides wisely, visualize the process, trust the journey, and enjoy the adventure that's unfolding before you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another exploration of the amazing world of transurfing.